My name is Brandon Lahoud. I have a long title. Phillips like long titles. So it is a business unit leader for Radiology Informatics for APAC.
Yes.
Which basically means I lead the radiology informatics business, which is what are we doing with radiology informatics today and what we're doing over the next 2 to 5 years. And working with different markets across APAC to find out what their needs are.
Interesting. And so what exactly is radiology informatics? How's that different from just we just said radiology? What's the informatics
So,
part?
yeah, I suppose the informatics part is when you look at radiology, there's a lot of moving parts, from patients coming into a radiology department, getting scheduled for an appointment, then going to get scanned on a CT or an MR or an X-ray machine, and then that data gets acquired by the machine and then passes on to the clinician for reporting. So all these moving parts, really the informatics part is all that software element in the background. So how does the data of that patient flow from the information systems via the EMR onto the PACS systems for reporting, and clinicians review onto the report out to the GP. And we kind of sit in that, we're kind of the glue that puts all those pieces together and the software interface to the radiologists and the users, the front end.
Yeah, got you. Well, I guess, I think of radiology and all the interest around artificial intelligence generally in healthcare. I think of radiology as one of the first disciplines that really kind of lent into AI, probably a bit more than others in healthcare, and many more have followed since. And, speaking, if you're focusing on the data, there's a lot of data needs in the AI space too. I imagine AI is kind of front and center for you guys right now.
Oh, it is, yeah. It's been a hype for a long time. I think we're past that hype stage, more into adoption. And the adoption is leading to actually how do we use it, right? It sounds simple, right? Oh, yeah, we've got an AI app that's going to identify lung nodules. And you go, this is fantastic. This is really going to help us improve. But it's not so simple, right? Because there's so many different systems. There's actually no real standard yet for AI. So while they use compliance and standards, we want to automate that as best as we can. So we're looking for platforms. We're looking for integration into that workflow.
Yeah.
So we want the user to identify and use that AI very easily. And we want to be able to allow all the companies that are popping up for AI to actually be a part of that versus us just providing the AI ourselves.
Fair. And the, we can all be guilty sometimes of just saying, well, it's AI the thing and it makes it more efficient. In healthcare, particularly in the diagnostic side, you could apply AI in the workflow optimization on the admin behind the scenes bit. We could go full into the diagnostic side and do the diagnosing that a clinician might, or a system in that process. When you kind of get to that next level on where you see the AI these days having a real transformative impact, particularly in radiology, where do you see that's going to address a real problem that needs to be hit right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So some of the major problems that we're facing at the moment, we know there's a rise in chronic conditions. And more patients are coming into the facilities with more chronic disease types, which means more scans, which means scans from really advanced modalities, which are generating this enormous amount of data, lots of clinical data, and the clinicians have to sift through all this data to make a clinical decision and find the right clinical diagnosis very quickly. On top of that problem of more data, more chronic disease, more complexity, there's a decline in clinicians globally, and it's steadily declining more and more. So there's a lot of pressure on clinicians. So that's going to lead to a thing where clinicians are reaching burnout. They can't get through all this data quickly, and invariably leads to a mistake. So AI is going to be there as an assistant. So we start with an assistant. So here is a case that has a clinical finding. Here is the clinical finding. Do you agree? Do you disagree? So instead of sifting through all this data, it's about identifying that data and then providing an insight back to a clinician. Actually, our leader of our informatics the team, Shez, Dr. Shez, he talked about when you look at a car dashboard, or if you look at the weather, where before it was like it's going to be rainy today. Now it's about you have a jacket, right? You need a jacket today because it's going to rain at this time. It's transforming that data into insights. And that's where we see the benefit, because the need is that there's just too much data. There's not enough clinicians to go through it, and there's more complexity.
Yeah.
And there is time pressure, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have time. So that's where AI is going to be this assistant.
Yeah. that what does it mean to me is super important. But I guess if I think about it, if my weather app just said you need a jacket today, I'd be like, well, show me the data, like show me the proof. I want to trust that this thing works.
Exactly.
So you need to be able to have that kind of insights behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then also that front end too. I'm always curious in this AI space too, like as more and more healthcare systems adopt AI to assist in, say, the consults that they're going to perform in the future, let's say, or the patients they're going to see in the future. Sometimes there's a lot of benefit in implementing AI because you've got all this historical data as well that then you can start to leverage for more informed insights and bigger picture thoughts. Where do you play? What space do you play in? Is it that, if a new system was to implement some technology or bring AI into the fold, is it going to help patients tomorrow, or is there also potentially, if they've invested essentially in all this bank of data that they could better leverage, they can then start to retrospectively start to play with something?
Yeah, really, really good point, really good question. So today is very much about providing that insight right now.
Yeah.
What's the problem? But then you can take that data now retrospectively and historically and start to apply population health to that and say, right, we identify that in this age group, in this region, this is likely more of a problem. Therefore, we can provide insights to be proactive for patients. Come in, scan earlier. You're likely to get this. You're likely to get that. So that's certainly the future. It's a lot of data to transfer. There's many companies that are doing it, but that is certainly the future.
Yeah.
Looking at that retrospective data. We are using some Gen AI tools that can kind of provide that information, but that's certainly a future.
Yeah, that's good to know. And so you're here at Digital Health Week and engaging with the New Zealand community. What are the kind of big problems to solve you're seeing out there, here on the exhibition floor and out in the sessions? What are people really wanting when it comes to, see these new technologies in patient care, particularly in the current climate in New Zealand?
It's all the buzzwords that you hear. It's interoperability. How do I get my one system to speak to my other system?
Yes.
The politics behind hospital A versus hospital B. How do I be more efficient? How do I do more with less people is all the work. There's a lot of interesting discussions here, a lot about AI. But it's very much about interoperability of systems. How do I use the systems I have versus implementing new systems? How do I kind of uplift those systems to talk to each other versus replacing everything?
Yeah. No, I think you've captured that well there. Lastly, you're doing a session this afternoon. Tell us about what you're sharing with them.
I am. I'm doing a session on adoption of AI in radiology workflow. So as we spoke earlier about, there's so many options of AI from multiple companies, and everyone wants a piece of it. And they really talking about how we adopt that, how easy it is to adopt that. So I do use a little analogy with my kids that when we took our kids when they were younger, my wife and I would take our kids to the candy store. And there's so many choices when they come to the candy. My son would come in and he would say, I'll just take the 2 biggest candies, Dad, and I'll be done. But my daughter would deliberate over which candies I choose. And eventually she would settle on the 2 candies, a red one or a blue one, and we'd exit, and then she would try that red one, and she could see, I'm not sure that red one was a good choice, Dad. A little bit like that with the AIs. There's so many choice. How do you make the right choice? So I'm talking about that today. How do you make the right choice? And even if it's the wrong choice, how do you backtrack from that easily and adopt the AI that moves forward versus just going, I don't know if I have that buyer's remorse. I chose the wrong candy. I chose the wrong AI. It's not doing what I expected it to do. So I'm talking along those lines.
Yeah, excellent. And lastly, then, if there was some key takeaways from that session that you hope people take away, look, is there some things that you hope they'd remember in making these decisions where it feels like, if I'm buying into this, I'm in this lifelong marriage that's really difficult to get out of, or there's that. I think that's a lot of the stagnation in healthcare is people concerned about, are they making the right choice given that everything's moving so quick? So any key takeaways you'd hope?
Yeah, I want the key takeaway to be that they're not going to be stuck with a particular AI. They have the options. They can use a platform to subscribe to a particular AI, do an evaluation, let their clinicians try that. If it's working for them, fantastic, let's run with that. If it's not, let's evaluate something else. So I'd like them to come away with thinking that there's so much talk around AI, there's so much challenges about implementing that AI. Do I have the choice to make those decisions without regretting that decision?